start by introducing the panelists for today. So first we have Wiseroy Damodaran. Roy is a corporate lawyer by profession. He graduated from the National University of Advanced Legal Studies in 2008, and as part of the campus recruitment program was placed in the general corporate practice group of the law firm Desai and Divanji at their office in Mumbai. In 2010, Roy moved to Bangalore and joined Trilegal, one of India's leading law firms. He is now a partner at the firm and specializes in M&A, private equity, and venture capital investment transactions and matters. Roy is also a member of the Bar Council of Maharashtra and Goa. Welcome, Roy.
Thank you, Manu.
Next, we have Advocate Gitika Khanchandani, founder and principal attorney at GNK Legal, a boutique firm founded in 2016. They practice exclusively into intellectual property rights laws, specializing more particularly in trademarks, copyright, and design, helping business owners in protecting their brands and goodwill. Gitika is a visiting faculty at Praveen Gandhi College of Law, from where she herself passed out in 2011. She worked as a senior associate at GS Rijwani and Co. before setting up her own practice. Welcome, Gitika.
Thank you, Bara, for the wonderful introduction.
Then we have Shikha Radhakrishnan. She currently works at Adobe Systems, a multinational company, as legal counsel, APAC region. As an in-house counsel for over 8 years, she has extensive experience handling sales and commercial legal issues with specific focus on the technology sector. After graduating from National University of Advanced Legal Studies in 2008, Shikha started her career with Amarchand Mangaldas, Bangalore. She has 4 years of law firm experience, and especially in the area of banking, finance, private equity, and general corporate sectors. She changed gears to move to an in-house role at Wipro Limited, where she handled the global commercial contracts. Welcome, Shikha.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here, Bala.
Finally, we have Vasudev Devadasan, I think the youngest member in our panel today, currently a research assistant at the Supreme Court of India. Completed his schooling from Brockwood Park School, UK in 2012 and graduated from Jindal Global Law School in 2018. After graduating, he worked in corporate law as part of Trilegal's stressed assets and financing team in Mumbai. He is currently clerking at the Supreme Court of India under Justice D.Y. Chandrachud. Vasudev also regularly writes for the Indian Constitutional Law and Philosophy blog on a range of social and legal issues, including human rights and constitutional law, and has published articles in national and international law journals. Welcome, Vasudev.
Thanks. Great to be here.
I would now like to introduce you all to Rita Balachandran, career counselor and mentor, and the founder of PerfectCareerFit.com. She is our host for the evening. I now request Rita to please brief us on this Meet the Master series and the thought behind it.
Hello, everyone. Glad to see such a encouraging response for every session that we've been having. This is our third series of Meet the Masters. We started with bio, we moved to sports, and now we have entered a world which combines the economic, social, and the political world together. That's the career in law. So I'm very glad that we have participants today who are, right from a young age of 13, 14 are in the 9th grade, to the participants who are, people who have already taken the path of law and have joined colleges, different tech colleges, doing their studies in law. So I'll just give you a brief overview of how this field is, what is the education, legal education in India all about, and then we'll quickly move to our panelists back who will share their experience with you. And I think their experience matters a lot in terms of you taking decisions about career in law. So the legal education in India today, there are some facts and figures. So we know that there are 22 national law universities, more than 50 private colleges who take one common exam, which is CLAT. Through CLAT and in the national law universities, we have around 2538 seats in undergrad courses. We have for post-graduation courses 724 seats, but that's not the end of the world of law. You know, the newer colleges are becoming like, you know, and the private colleges are taking this space along with the national law universities. So we have a new, you know, stream of, I would say, education which has come up in 1985 when the first NLU was established in Bangalore. Before that, education used to happen with a 3-year degree. And now we have moved to an integrated system of education, which is a 5-year education system, which a lot of students are now preferring over, you know, first doing their graduation and then doing their LLB. So there are a lot of, with that, what has also happened is that along with our national law universities, we are seeing, you know, private colleges or deemed universities offering law as an education. We have exams which are either taken at the national level or at the state level or at the university level. So let's say, you know, a national level exam like a CLAT or an LSAT, which was introduced recently, or an all India level of exam. And at the state level, there are different states which have their own exams. So right from Maharashtra to Telangana to Andhra Pradesh, you know, to Kerala, they have their own state level exams. And then we have university level exams, which are, let's say, a university like Symbiosis, they have their own exams. So there are colleges which accept CLAT and they also accept LSAT. Now, what difference does it make for you, for a, you know, a young student who's, let's say, in school, because we have a lot of participants here who are still in school and at looking at education in the law field. And when you are deciding such careers, you also, along with the career, have to start looking at from where do you want this education. So it's important that also to understand what are the entry requirements and how do you go to that college of, you know, whatever your dream college is all about. So there are parameters which are, you know, there are skills that you need to develop. So when you are at the initial stages, you need to understand what is it that you enjoy doing, and second is what are your skill sets. And I think law requires a very high skill set in terms of your communication, to your analytical thinking, to your reasoning, and how good you are probably in research. And some of these skills are also tested in the entrance exams which are conducted, you know, before you take an admission. So right from, you know, a CLAT exam like a CLAT, which tests your logical reasoning, to legal reasoning, English language, and your journal knowledge, to an exam like LSAT, which probably which checks your reading comprehension, to your analytical reasoning, logical reasoning, which is conducted into you know, forms. So it means that for you as a student, the scope is very high, and which is not just restricted to the national law college universities, but it is also now widening up with a lot of new private colleges coming in. So I will now hand over, you know, the discussion back to our panelists, who will now share what their experience has been and how their experience will motivate you all to probably take this career path and move ahead in this way. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Rita, for explaining to us the objective behind holding this Meet the Master series for students and parents, and, you know, for today evening's topic on law. So now let's move forward with the questions and queries that has been raised by the students to the panelists across the process of registration over the last 4-5 days that, you know, the system has been on. So my first question is to Viceroy Roy. What was your key consideration while choosing to work for a law firm, and what is it like working in a law firm? You know, if you could explain that to our students. In fact, you know, what you should also tell us is, what do law firms look for in students?
Sure. Good question. So I actually, after I graduated from law school, joined a corporate law firm. And my first experience at a corporate law firm was actually before I graduated, and that was during my first corporate internship that I had. I was actually able to secure an internship in my third or the fourth year. This was back in 2007 or 6, right? When, in fact, at that point in time, there was no CLAT as well. So I think, that experience at the corporate law firm during my internship, gave me an idea of, what a corporate law firm does. I enjoyed being in, business critical situations. I played a small part in, some of the large deals that, made it to the papers the next day. So that, just being, a small part of this deal making process, a small part of the negotiations that were going on, just made me feel that, it just made me feel that litigation is really not my cup of tea. And I was aspiring at that point in time to become a deal maker, right? So it was that, and honestly, without having that experience, I don't think I would have joined a corporate law firm or wanted to join a corporate law firm at the time. Anyway, so just moving on to how how it is working in a corporate law firm. Obviously, it is very different for a junior lawyer, and as you become a senior within the organization, your roles and responsibilities change. But what I can say is, from day one, it is extremely. I mean, it's hard work. Um, you need to be very patient. You need to show the willingness to learn. It's a slow process, but as long as you work hard enough, you can make it in a corporate law firm or litigation or whatever it is. I think the key to success is hard work for a lawyer.
So let's move on to the next one. Gitika, this is for you. What we wanted to know was, what are the career prospects in the field of IPR, intellectual property rights, and what can one explore apart from litigation? I know that you are into active litigation in the field of IPR. So if you could sort of give us an overview on this.
The best part about IPR is it's constantly evolving. Wherever there is change in situation or circumstances, your prospects to work in the field just keep booming. So apart from litigation, if you ask me, there's a lot of contractual work that is actually involved in IPR, especially your agreements as licensing with regard to artists or musical work. I mean, currently all these software applications for sharing videos and music are very popular in the market. And a lot of these actually require a lot of permits that you do with the sound recording companies, the production companies, and the various artists. So there is a lot of back-end work as well that's involved in IPR, apart from just the litigation part or, procuring your rights in India. And it's also better now because a lot of countries have now ratified to a few treaties that let an attorney in India practice into various foreign jurisdictions so far as IPR rights procurement is concerned. So I think that is somewhere also that we can explore a lot and has a lot of potential when we're looking for people in India exploring business opportunities in foreign countries.
Okay, so moving on, just wanted to check now. This one is for you, Shikha. So post your 4 years graduation from National University of Advanced Legal Studies in 2008, you worked in a law firm for 4 years and then shifted to the corporate world. So, it will be good if you could give us, how was it different working in a law firm versus working in a large multinational like Adobe today?
So I think work-wise, the difference is that if it's a law firm, you actually end up doing more structured, deal-specific transactions. It's sort of like a smaller portion, but very niche of the entire larger picture. When you move, or rather when you shift gears and move in-house, you work more closely with business. So every decision that is to be taken, it just can't be the legal yes or no. You have to be able to work intimately with the business, be able to look at risks and rewards, give the required suggestions, and help right people make the decisions. That's where the difference is. Growth-wise, I think both law firm and in-house offer a very great, actually offer great trajectory for growth. It's just about putting in that effort and working hard and working smart.
Let's move on to Vasudev. So Vasudev, I mean, a lot of students were wanting to find out, does the institution from where you do your law make any difference to your career, either in litigation or non-litigation areas? Is it the same as, doing an MBA from a reputed institution? What would be your take? Because you are one of the recent, I would say, the youngest person who has come out from the panel now, so you would know more about it. So what's your take on it?
Yeah, I think that's an important point. If you're sort of choosing your university and writing all these entrance exams, I would say that while off the top of my head, it seems like going to a reputed university has the kind of brand recognition that everybody outside the law field recognizes. So say you go to a Harvard or an Oxford, that's a reputed university, people will take you more seriously. But what you have to remember is that one, law is a 5-year course, and two, as you progress during your career, it matters less where you went to university and more what you have done in university and what you have done since graduating. So I would say that maybe initially in the first 6 months, 1 year of joining a university, you might feel like there's a benefit of having gone to an elite reputed university, but that will quickly wear off. And I think, like all the other panelists have said, if you're not able to work hard, if you're not able to work smart, then it's not going to really matter. So I think that where you graduate in your university, in terms of if you're rank 1, 10, or 100, matters probably more than where you graduated from. And personally speaking, I graduated from Jindal, which wasn't too well known when I actually joined. So it was only about 10, 12 years old. And as a young lawyer, I had absolutely no problems because I did well for myself in university. So I was able to secure a job right out of law school. I was able to secure subsequent career advancement. So I don't think that is ever a limiting factor.
And surely would have been helpful to a lot of students here in the audience. Gitika, just wanted to move on to the next one. Just wanted to check out. It is often said that litigation is a highly individualized career, whereas non-litigation profile is more of an institutionalized service where individuals don't matter. What is your idea of this perception?
No, Bala, I do not agree with this.
Okay.
All right, because let's say litigation is a glamorous part of the entire subject. Yeah, because as we grow up, we see the courtroom dramas happening and we are more inclined towards it. But non-lit is equally very important. In fact, it is a groundwork for any good litigation. So if your groundwork is done well, your litigation is likely to succeed in the court, which implies that you cannot undermine it by saying it's an institutionalized object, because every agreement, every contract has its own detailing that it requires given to a particular scenario. So you can't have a standard module that is applicable throughout. You need personal touches. You need to be there understanding your client's requirement and thereafter execute it. So it is not fair to say that non-lit is an institutionalized model and litigation is a personalized model.
I think you have put it smartly. I would like to have the same insight from, let's say, Roy, what would be your take on it? How is it, because you are from a law firm, And how do you find it different from being, if you had taken litigation as a career, for example? So where do you, I know in the beginning you did say that you are cut out for non-litigation, but, since you're in a law firm, what is your take on this?
See again, see Bala, when you reach a certain stage in your career, and like Gitika was saying, um, you know, corporate law is not just essentially reviewing and drafting contracts, right? There's a lot of thought that actually goes into drafting these provisions, ensuring that you mitigate the risk of litigation, right? Um, Again, I mean, if you actually see the way we draft these contracts, whether it's joint ventures or mergers or acquisitions, we're not trying to make it a one-sided deal. At the end of the day, these are business deals. They need to be fair deals. You can't have a situation where it's one-sided, because while, I mean, you can prove that you're a good lawyer to your client, but the point is, if you're doing a joint venture, for example, that joint venture is going to go kaput within 2 or 3 months, right? So you do need, I mean, and that's why I think, even see, I don't think it's possible for you as a law student in your first or second year to actually decide on whether you want to become a corporate lawyer or litigate in court, because I think it's too early, right? I think you need that holistic experience of going, observing and attending court proceedings, interning with a counsel, and actually going and working at a law firm, because you need a mix of, you essentially need all of the exposure, and then you can decide on whether you want to litigate or do corporate commercial type of transactions. But I think the fundamental point here is that I mean, you do need to know how litigation works, whatever field you're in.
So that, I think you put it rightly. Rita, you had something to ask Vasu?
I want to go back to Vasu with his earlier, review on how institution matters. And Vasu, you said that, it's not about the institution, but it's what you do in the institution that matters more. So do you want to, go back to your college days and then share any example of, what you made it in the institution, what exactly, how your life was something that which gave you an internship at Trilegal, and then you got accepted in Trilegal for your first job. So what was it that you did differently, that you got could make that difference of joining an organization like Trilegal?
Yeah, I mean, so I obviously don't want to comment on it from a hiring perspective. I think obviously Roy, Gitika, all of y'all will be better placed to discuss it from a hiring perspective as to what firms are looking for and what organizations are looking for. But in terms of what I did during college, I think obviously a couple of key things are, one is academics are important. Most organizations generally tend to screen based on how well you have done within your batch. So if you're a batch of 100, you should be within the top, say 20 is a good benchmark to at least aim for. Second is, you don't want to just limit yourself to exams. You want to do a couple of good co-curricular activities that allow you to engage with the law. So you want to either do some mooting, or you want to write some papers. You want to do some sort of co-curricular activities. And lastly, and I think Roy also touched upon this, you should absolutely intern in as many places as possible. You're much more likely to get hired when someone sees you working day to day than when somebody looks at your CV, because it's much harder for somebody to hire you when they just have your CV to go by and it's a short 15-minute interview. I found that the people who are happier with their jobs are people who have had a good idea about the kind of place they were working before they joined. So interning always helps. And you also find out if the kind of law that that organization is practicing is also for you, whether it's a corporate law firm or a litigation outfit. So that helps both parties be more informed, and the employers can also tell whether you're a hardworking person. So whenever you go for your internships, just very, very simple, be absolutely hardworking, show up on time, conduct yourself professionally. and yeah, be good at your job. And yeah, so I would say those are the kind of key simple things that really allow you to stand out in law school. And if you do those well, I don't think you should have a problem in law school.
I think that's very nicely put, Vasudev, and I'm sure it's helpful. Shikha, the next one is for you. What are the career progression opportunities for a legal professional in the corporate sector? I mean, are they, a crucial element in the management setup? What can you expect and what you shouldn't expect working in the corporate sector as a legal counsel, for example? So what's your take on that?
So going by what the trends right now, sky is the limit. You have technically for a legal counsel or a legal executive who joins, in a legal, if you strictly stick to the legal channel, the highest position in a in-house role is general counsel. But a quick Google search will tell you there are numerous CEOs across the world who have legal experience, who've actually switched after becoming general counsels. Because the nature of your role is such that you work very closely with business. You are part of decision making. It's not just coming to you for a legal opinion. Is this work? Does this work? Does the law allow me to do this? It's much beyond it. You are part of the strategizing of deals. You're part of assessing the risks. And it's not just with one part of the company. It can be from the top leadership to the sales department, or your HR department, or your finance department. So you're sort of that one link which connects everyone, and you are able to guide and guide at every level. You're able to guide them, and which is why you have most of these leaderships coming to legal to ask whether it's for seeking opinions, and you are able to give views because of your negotiation skills or your creative thinking. You are able to give them some long-standing decisions, which would be impactful, keeping in mind the ethics of the company, because most multinational companies are very, very strong on it. And I think as a general counsel or anyone with a legal background, that's inbuilt on you when you give decisions or when you give guidances. So yes, sky's the limit. Yes, Rita.
Great.
So Shikha can, so taking you forward from what you said just now, you want to share any experience when you say that, okay, multinationals are, very strict in terms of what their ethical practices are. And you are, maybe as a person who is connecting a lot of people together. So any experience that you want to share with the students, which will probably make them understand this part better?
So it's very generically, when you have people behaving certain way. I think I'll just stick to a very general example because we have a lot of school students here. There is, so like Vasu just mentioned, showing up on time, behaving appropriately, being aware of the fact that you are in a professional environment. You do have aberrations, and ultimately it all falls back to us, where you would have people coming, you would have HR coming to us and asking, oh, there's someone who did something like this. It's technically against the policy. Can you help us? Because we need a right way to talk to that person. Can we terminate the person, or should we give them a suggestion? How do we look about giving a second chance? And by ethics, it's much more than that, but it's just one of the examples.
So moving forward, Gitika, this next one is for you. We wanted to know, what were your main considerations to start your own practice and be an entrepreneur? I mean, if you could, in a nutshell, help describe your journey, I think it will be useful.
Bala, so I started actually working with a law firm in 2006 as an intern while I was studying law. And that is the time I made up my mind that I'm going to pursue my career in IPR itself. And I took, so initially in my career, I was very keen on doing non-litigation practice so far as IPR is concerned. And in the beginning of my career, my focus was completely on non-lit. it is only subsequent to 2012 that I started developing a lot of interest in litigation, and I realized I have a knack for it. And it would be good for my career if I pursue in that very direction and go forward with it. So after working with a law firm for a continuous period of 10 years, I realized that I have enough experience, and I would like to start a firm that has a vision and the goals that I personally want to achieve. So if you ever do go through our organization profile, you realize that our firm has certain ethics that it follows, and in an independent practice, I can make sure I'm implementing it and carrying forward with it. And hence, I decided it's high time I start working for myself and enjoy what I do doing the most. Thanks.
That was very nicely put. Thank you so much, Gitika. Roy, just wanted to come back to you. We had a query from a student. So I just wanted to take it up exactly the way she had written. So she says, I had a job offer to work with a startup, but however, due to the COVID-19 situation and issues related to lack of funding, that offer was withdrawn. I'm a student of the graduating batch 2015-20. Seeking guidance on the best options available to me and the steps that I can take at this point. How are the current situations, affecting the job market and, even internships? If you could give some tips, it will be very useful for the students who are there in our audience today.
Sure. Sorry, I know that's a bit unfortunate. I think it's happening quite. I've actually known a number of cases where offers have been withdrawn from not just startups and companies and corporates, but also from law firms as well. See, I think I think most importantly, don't panic. You've graduated, whoever the student is. I think now is the time, and see these kind of, we've all faced these kind of crises, right? When we graduated in 2008, we were hit by a massive recession. At that point in time, it was unprecedented for corporate law firms, right? Corporate law firms haven't been around forever. This time, unfortunately, we are hit with a pandemic. There could be, there are going to be crises like this. I think, now is the time to reach out to your contacts, maybe reach out to your seniors who've been placed in other law firms or corporates, again, not in a way to pester them, but just, ask them to keep an eye out for you, and maybe it's also a good time to essentially reach out to, lawyers who you've interned with, for example, or corporates that you've interned with. Just put a message out there that, this, if there is an opportunity, please, just get back to me, because the situation is such that there is a freezing hire at the moment, but it's not going to last for long. I think in a month or two, everything is going to go back to normal as far as hiring is work has started picking up. So it's not the end of the world. Just be calm, have the patience. I think we'll all sail through it. But I think it's important to put the message out there, not in a public forum. Reach out individually. It's the best time to tap your network right now.
Great. Gitika, do you have anything to suggest to this young student? I mean, exactly the same case. I mean, she lost out on a offer which was, where she was supposed to join, and then they took back the offer. So, with your experience, do you have anything to share with the student?
I agree with Roy on this. It's an excellent time to tap on your network. Also, interestingly, a few of the firms are trying now to go on an online module. So they are taking in people only for online module for a specific period of time. Now, I know this is not a full-time solution, but at least that will help you in staying in touch with law and being active in the field. And on your CV or on your resume, when you put forward, you will still have some experience that you have gained in this period of time. So I would suggest look out for those opportunities where law firms are offering people on board as an internship or an employee for a specific period on online platform only. it's a good thing to know and learn, because I think eventually how we are proceeding now, I think legal fraternity as a whole would now have to rely a lot on these technology systems and online systems, though we are very traditional in our approach, but it's high time we update. And it's a good time to see that change, learn that change, and adapt to it before we do.
Thank you so much, Gitika. That was useful. Vasudev, coming to you, wanted to check out, in your case, you shifted from working in a law firm to now being a research assistant at the Supreme Court. So, one is, what is the reason for this shift? And of course, alongside, you can also say, what is the requirement for being a research assistant in the Supreme Court and, the Supreme Court advocate on record? So if you could just touch upon these two areas, it will be useful.
Yeah, sure. Just to quickly clarify, so a Supreme Court advocate on record is somebody who actually argues in court. What I do is I work with the judge. So whenever you hear in the papers, so say there's a right to privacy case or the Ayodhya judgment, or when they decriminalize homosexuality, we sort of work on the back end of those judgments, assisting the judges with research and obviously more day-to-day matters. So in terms of why I moved from a firm to this, well, the way law schools work is that you get your offer significantly before you graduate. So I got my offer from the law firm in my 4th year. So I had about 1.5 years after getting my offer to sort of continue exploring in law school. And I took a whole bunch of courses. I did some more internships. And by the time I graduated, I was actually more inclined towards academics and constitutional law, constitutional theory. So, but at the same time, I had this offer from one of the top firms in the country. So I said, why I would be stupid to throw it away. Why not go find out what it's like? And I did it, and I had an absolutely great time. I mean, I enjoyed my time at Trilegal. But I also knew that it wasn't what I wanted to do for, say, the next 8 years or the next 10 years. So then that's why I decided to shift out of that and move to the Supreme Court. So yeah, I would say, like with law, with any other career really, that you should sort of have the courage to pursue what you actually enjoy and what you actually want to do. But you also shouldn't be blind to the pros and cons that come with sort of shifting careers. So I probably lost, there are batchmates of mine who might have gone to a master's degree already, or are a year ahead of me. But there are also pros of having worked in a law firm. So I worked in a financing team, and when I've come to the Supreme Court, there's so much commercial litigation that I'm able to wrap my head around a lot more easily because I spent a year at Trilegal. So there are pros and cons, and you shouldn't be blind to those. But at the same time, you shouldn't stop you from, shouldn't stop it from doing what you actually want to do. So yeah.
Thanks. I think that was, I think you covered it well.
So
now,
one thing I'll just say that, in a nutshell, what everybody is saying is that your experience at the time of your internship and multiple internship is something which is very critical during your program of 5 years, because the more exposure that you get in different kind of law fields is something that will make a deciding point also for you to what you want to go ahead and do. And as Vasudev said, that enjoy what you love to do, but at the same time be aware of the pros and cons, because there are definitely pros and cons at both the sides of it. But till the time you are not exposed to it, so I know of students who do even 5 to 6 internships during their law program, which means that the more that different varied kind of an experience that you get, that also helps you to make decisions in terms of what you want to do ahead.
Viceroy, this is for you. Just wanted to sort of have you explain. So you are a partner at a law firm. So, if you could just sort of explain to us the journey, how you sort of reached where you are, and, what are all the preparedness that you had to be ready with, just to give the students an idea in terms of how you can move up move your way up in a law firm if you're working in a law firm? If you could just highlight on that.
Hi, can you hear me?
Roy, you're
So since this session is for students, I think I just want to emphasize that it's not just important to get internships. You need to be extremely productive at your internships. I mean, see, getting into a reputed college, you have to go through a CLAT. So that test is already done. You're attending classes, but see, internships is a very different ballgame. We have so many interns in our firm, but some of them may not even connect with partners, may not connect with senior associates. Some of them are a little bit shy to take up work. That's not the way you should approach an internship, right? In an internship, you need to be extremely productive, approachable, willing to work. And that's the point in time where you need to make your connections, right? You should be in a position to actually complete the internship, get back home, and be able to say, for example, reach out to a senior partner there and connect over LinkedIn, right? People need to remember you. That's important. So one is doing really, really good work, but remember there are hundreds of interns who join these firms, right? And a lot of these interns, are from the best 40, 50 colleges in India. And all of them are actually doing really good work. But I think it's extremely important. Apart from good work, you also need to, your personality, your soft skills, people need to see that you're willing to work and you have it in you. You have that hunger in you, right? And that's exactly the type of qualities that one will be looking for in an interview where if it's an interview for hiring an associate, they'll essentially be, because see, out of law school, it's not that you know how to draft a document or go to court and argue a case, right? So willingness to learn needs to be there. So I mean, so that was one thing, when I did my first set of internships, we made it a point to actually be visible to everybody, right? Because like Vasu was mentioning, my nuance in 2008, I was the second batch. I think we were probably the first batch where some corporate law firms came for placement. So it was difficult for us. We didn't really have, we had to essentially create an impression amongst the lawyers in the law firms to actually get a job. Once you're in a law firm, I mean, as an associate, you need to really work hard. I mean, if you're in the corporate team, but somebody gives you a litigation matter, you're not saying no. You have to do it. So my first assignment, say, for example, as soon as I joined the law firm, I was given basically a bunch of documents, a large pile of documents, and the senior associate came to me and said, staple every 17 pages. No questions asked. I mean, you can't say, no, I'm not here for that, right? So the point is, you need to be willing. See, every small role is important, whether it's stapling, whatever it is, whether it's proofreading a document, right? So it's a very slow process, but it's a very rewarding process. So from an associate, you start, and see, one other important thing about working in a law firm is from day one, you'll be entrusted with very, very serious work, right? You might feel, this imposter syndrome will, you might wonder, what am I doing in this conference room? Everybody else is smarter than me, but it doesn't matter, right? The point is, do you, learn from there and hold your ground, right? Now, when you move to a senior associate, then your skill set needs to change a little bit. You need to have, so as a junior associate, it's all upward management skills. As a senior associate or a partner or a counsel, it's downward management skills. You need to get other people to work for you. And for that, honestly, Bala, if you were to ask me, you really need to be a nice person, because it's very difficult to get juniors to work for you, or for them to be interested in working with you, unless you're able to actually motivate them to work, right? So it's all people skills. So I'll just leave it at that.
so much, Roy. Thanks. Shikha, the next one is for you. Would you be able to explain a little about what legal journalism is all about and the future of that?
Sure. Frankly, legal journalism is one of the less talked about amongst all these glamorous litigation, non-litigation, and corporate law firm and all that structure, legal journalism is one of the slow but steady risers. I think it's extremely challenging and creative. It's not just about, I think erstwhile traditionally it used to be more about reporting cases and giving opinions. It's changed a lot in the recent years. You have a lot of these websites, even within India. So I think the other panelists may be aware, you have your bar and bench, you have your live law, which sort of tries to bring it closer, bring legal issues more closer to students and even general citizens, people who are not part of the legal field. There are more information which available around legal profession, law school updates. You have updates about bar, the bench updates. There is a lot more information that's coming in, and there are a lot more venues that have opened up. And with blogging, vlogging, I think there's just so much more information that's coming across and being made available very succinctly, which can be understood by I think the platform sort of opened up, and it's not restricted to law students and lawyers anymore. So yeah, I think it's a extremely good and challenging form. If you have really good communication skills, see, legal part of it, you'll definitely, how to interpret a clause or how to interpret a judgment, give your opinion. It's something, that part of it is something that you will pick up during law school, because you would go through at least the interpretation part of it. So long as you have good communication skills, creative writing skills, go ahead, why not?
Great. I think that was well explained. Gitika, one quick one for you. It would be great if you could explain to the student community what are the career prospects in the field of IPR, and how one could sort of build on it, and what are the key essentials one need to have to enter into that space. And then, of course, apart from litigation in IPR, what are the other areas that one can focus on, and if there is any message to the student.
Bala, when we say IPR, it's actually a compilation of lot of different rights. Some of it are very widely explored, some of it are not yet explored. As a student, I would say experience it. It's at a student point of view, it is very difficult to figure out whether IPR is something you want to pursue, solely. B, do you want to get into litigation or not get into litigation? I think if you experience it completely, intern with a few law firms, and take in and experience how the litigation part pursues, understand how patents work, how design work, get into the crux of the matter and understand the functionality as a whole. Thereafter, make a choice. Because as you move forward, it is, as I said in the very beginning also, it's always very evolving. Like with all the digital space coming into picture right now, I'm myself learning a lot of new things right now. So it's a constant learning process. Yes, other fields of law are also, but I think IPR is a little more evolving compared to others. No offense to the other speakers over here. But so I think experience it, go through it. There are a lot of intricate details. IPR is a very technical subject of law. So go to the intricate details. I would suggest, if you're willing to pursue a career, start at the root. Start at the very beginning of, what is an IPR? How do you file it? How do you get across any successful registration? Because even if you want to, let's say, get into the non-litigation part of it, you have to understand how it evolves. Because here you are trying to protect an intangible object which is not visible to an eye. Now, how do you figure out its existence, its non-existence, is a very technical question. So if you're willing to pursue a career in an IPR, I would say, A, be very patient. And it requires a lot of time. If you are willing to get into litigation, that requires a lot more time than non-litigation. So be there, give it all, give it your 100%, be patient, and just keep learning. I mean, whatever, each matter coming across to you, or in each simple document coming across to you, go through it, read it. I think eventually what even law firms are also looking for are people who are keen to learn and are adaptive by nature. You have to adapt to the system you go into. So that is very important.
Thank you so much. Thanks. I think that was well put. Vasudev, a quick one for you. Wanted to know, so are you planning to study further and you do your master's in law? And if so, what are your plans? I mean, have you decided on which country, which place, which university to go ahead with? If you could share that, it will be useful for the students there.
So the way legal education is structured, like Rita has already mentioned, we have this sort of 5-year course, which is your basic graduation. And after that, there are various options that you can explore. The most common is what's called an LLM, which is a master's in law. There are slightly different variations. Different countries call it slightly different things. But basically, it's a 1-year course, which is a master's degree. And over there, I mean, I'm currently applying for my master's, and there's a whole process which is largely a lot of looking at foreign universities, seeing which universities offer the kind of courses and have the kind of professors that you want. But I would say that if you have graduated in the sort of top 15-20% of your law school, you should definitely be looking at a master's overseas. The chances of getting accepted are very high. And in terms of which countries, what universities to go to, I don't want to get too specific, because it's really a question of doing the research and understanding what universities offer the kind of courses that you want. So some universities might have very good, say, IPR courses. Some universities might have very good constitutional law courses. Some universities might have very good, say, space and air law courses. So it's really a question of research and sort of digging down. But yeah, I would say that there's no reason that you have to stop after 5 years. If you enjoy studying, then you can continue. You can do a master's, you can do a PhD after that. And yeah, you can keep going. But for most people who look to practice in India, you'll be fine with the 5 years. You can maybe do the master's if you're inclined. But yeah.
Gitika, I want to come back to you, because you are, apart from your own practice and being an entrepreneur, you are also a faculty with the students. So do you see any change in the trend in terms of the kind of options that they are looking at? Do you see that when it was your time of study to now, when the students are much younger and their thinking processes have changed, do you see any kind of changes now?
I think the students now are very fortunate because it's so easily accessible now to get through a law firm or get through a partner. You go to LinkedIn, you connect with them. There are you can write blogs and share your work and actually showcase it to the world. Back when we started, getting through a law firm was a tedious task. So I think students now are very fortunate, and the law field and its dynamics have also now drastically changed. Earlier we had the conventional litigation and non-litigation, but as Shikha said, there are a lot of other segments of law also that are evolving now. So students today can actually explore a lot than they could ever do earlier. And I would say, with the gift of so many opportunities, I would say go out and grab them. Keep trying, keep experimenting, don't shy away from things. There are some things you may succeed at, there are some things you won't. Let's say you take up a litigation matter and you realize you're really good at non-litigation. That's absolutely okay. Get into journalism, get into reporting. It's just try, because this is the time you actually have to try. When you're studying, you can explore various possibilities into the given segment. So go out. I mean, even when we look back, we are very fortunate that we didn't limit ourselves and we kept exploring our opportunities even then. So when I started back then, you know, IPR, half the time my clients, I would have to explain what it actually is, which is now very easy. Like people already know what it is, which makes my job 50% done. Yeah. So that time it was a little ridiculous for me to say, okay, I'm just going to practice in one segmental law, when there were actually people practicing into all of it. And when I would go out and say I'm into IPR, they would say, why just one subject? Why can't you practice in the whole segment? But if you see today, there are a lot of different lawyers specializing into one segment or one subject of law only, and they're doing really exceptionally well at what they are doing. So experiment, try, don't shy away, and make the best of your college opportunities. Like Vishwa, you know, said in the earlier, like do your moot courts, go for debate competitions, write your journals. All of this help you, you know, build an acumen that will ensure you last well in any organization. Thank you.
Very nicely put. You know, I think that was useful. Shikha, you know, moving on to you, there was a query which said, you know, what is the scope of a lawyer in the life insurance sector? So, I mean, if you could sort of elaborate a little on this, maybe it will be useful for the student who had asked this question.
Sure. So one, life insurance is a very heavily regulated sector. So by and large, I would think as a, in general perspective, I think there would be litigating lawyers who handle exclusive insurance cases, which would, in my opinion, would be primarily consumer cases. You also have law firms which specialize in insurance matters, where they would be giving opinions about the legal policies, helping in policy formulations. You also have in-house counsel with insurance companies, where it would be a bit more varied, because you would obviously be working, advising on the structurings, the contracting bit. You would have the regulatory aspect of it. So by and large, I think generally these are the kind of sectors you have when it comes to insurance.
Okay, fine. That's interesting. Vasudev, wanted to just check out with you, on what basis should one be able to make a choice between the different streams of law? I mean, you know, is there any specific qualification that one must possess or be able to, or one must have to be able to make these choices? I mean, is there any thing on this?
So in terms of the different streams of law, 95% of the law school degrees that you get, which is the BA, LLB, it's a general degree. So there's no specific specializations. Different universities will offer slightly more nuances. You might be able to major in particular fields, but by and large, law is a general degree. The Bar Council of India has a long list of subjects that all law students have to study. And I would say that your specialization really is about exploring during law school, going through various internships, working in various organizations, kind of seeing what you enjoy, what kind of workplaces suit you. And I would say that through that, you have to sort of self-specialize at some point. And sort of once you realize the kind of law that you enjoy dealing with, you have to sort of narrow down and say, if you really enjoy corporate law, you might do 2-3 corporate internships back to back. If you really enjoy, say, working in a policy organization, you might work in a policy organization twice or thrice towards your 4th and 5th year. But per se, I would say that when you're going into law school, keep an open mind, because 5 years is a very long time. Most people, almost all my batchmates that I've known, have changed what they thought they wanted to do during their 5 years at some point. So definitely don't go in with a closed mind. Give everything a shot. And as you get towards the end of your 5 years, towards your 4th and 5th year, start honing down on what you enjoy more and the kind of organizations that you see yourself working for. And yeah, and there's sort of numerous smaller certifications and courses that you can take once you graduate, but I'd say those are very, very field specific. So I'd say that probably ask someone in that field. You don't need to worry about it when you're just generally going for a law degree.
Great. Thanks, Vasu. Roy, just coming back to you, I mean, on the similar lines, there is a question from somebody in the audience who's asked, what is the difference between a 3-year course and a 5-year course? So, looking at it at your level with your experience and, where you are today, how would you sort of help the student analyze and figure out what is good and, the difference between the 3-year course and 5-year course, and what does he need to do to upgrade himself better for a better job opportunity?
Sure. So I mean, it's obvious, right? I mean, 3 years versus 5 years, the 3-year course you typically take after your bachelor's degree. But I think again, and I don't know how I should emphasize on this, but see, law school, is not just about attending classes and lectures, right? It's it's, I mean, like for example, how surgeons see medicine and dentistry is as well, right? What you need to be doing as a law student is much more than attending lectures. You should be, I think Basu said, you should definitely be looking at doing a little bit of mooting. You should be definitely looking at attending proceedings and essentially observing court proceedings, and you should be doing these internships. So if you were to ask me, I don't think you can do justice to all of these extracurricular activities in a 3-year course. I would strongly recommend a 5-year course, because I just feel that gives you enough time, to intern during your vacations. If you're studying in a college, say for example, which is in one of the cities, you could attend court proceedings at high courts. You could basically, you could intern with, say, a counsel who practices at high court, Supreme Court. You could join as an intern at a city law firm, or as a paralegal, right? So my take on this is that if the student has already completed his a bachelor's degree, then yes, a 3-year course you could definitely do. But it's very important that you spend a lot of time and effort pursuing these extracurricular activities, because that is what is important. You need that exposure. You need that on the ground experience and first hand experience.
Okay, so I think that was I'm sure that is useful. Gitika, I'll come back to you. And again, and again connected to litigation and non-litigation. But what do you feel about the long-term prospects as far as a legal profession is concerned? So I mean, how would you want to sort of help a student figure out his path going forward? Is it better to switch roles from litigation to non-litigation, or vice versa? How would you want to sort of explain it to us?
So far as switching roles is concerned, Bala, I think you shouldn't shy away from it, be it at whatever juncture you are in your profession. To a law student, I would say experience it. Try your hand at litigation. Try your hand at non-litigation. Also try up taking subjects that you were not sure of. To give examples, some of my batchmates who were very keen in taking up litigation and did a lot of moots in college are actually now doing very well in non-litigation prospect. And vice versa. I mean, I myself can speak for myself that I didn't want to take up litigation, and right now I'm doing so. So I would say experience it, because till you haven't actually gone through it, you will not understand what each of this field of law requires from you. And it would be too early as a student to decide and make up your mind as to I want to just pursue in it. It's better that you experience it, go through it, understand it. Are you willing to put forward what it demands? It's not that non-litigation is not as demanding as litigation is. It's incorrect to say so. Both the fields are very demanding, and require your adaptability, your keenness to learn throughout your tenure as a lawyer. So instead, I would say is experience it, take it slow, Try doing as many internships as you can do, because they really help you in understanding how you go out and implement what you are actually studying in a law school. When you are out there in the field, trust me, it's completely different from what you are doing in your law school. No matter what are the number of moots you've done, no matter how many debates, competitions you have won, once you're standing in the courtroom and you know you are representing your client and trying to get him what you have promised him to do so, it's a different ball game altogether. Okay, so I would say be patient, learn, experience. Most importantly, listen to your seniors. Yeah, they are your guiding light through this, and they should be your go-to persons. Like even today, I go back to my seniors whenever I have doubt or I don't know, I'm not sure about a particular matter. So go ahead to them, ask them, because I think this is one field that experience matters the most. It's like wine. The more you age, the better you get at it. So keep experimenting, keep learning, and just give it your 100%. I would say give it 110%. When you're given an assignment to just, let's say, get A to B, go ahead, go and scrutinize the entire case. You never know where you will find loophole and do justice to a matter. So don't shy away and work hard. Thank you.
Thanks, Gitika.
Vasu, see, you are the youngest of the lot, we have a lot of young students here. So can you give them tips on how to crack CLAT or how to crack any of the LSAT or any of the entrance exam? So there are a lot of, students who are looking for entering into a law career. So any tips from your side?
Yeah, so I would say a couple of good ground rules would be start planning a little bit ahead of time. It's not something that you can just sort of wake up in about 2 weeks, run through and write the exam. You're going to need to know quite a large amount of general knowledge. You're going to have to familiarize yourself with the pattern of the question paper. You're going to have to see how many the kinds of questions that are generally asked in all the various sections. So spend some time, a good couple of months probably. Most people start preparing a year in advance. If you're very keen and you're very sure that you want to do law, then go ahead, start preparing. Do as many sort of practice tests as you can. And yeah, the general rules that apply to any sort of exam. I mean, you've written your 10th, you've written your 11th. In terms of how you study, you should just follow those same guidelines in terms of what works for you. But definitely don't take it lightly. These are hard exams and the level of competition is quite immense. So it's not something that you can just walk into and get. But with the right preparation, with the right amount of practice, there are various coaching centers that sort of grill you in terms of the exact kind of way to tackle the question paper. They give you access to past question papers. So definitely that's one good resource to have. Talk to somebody who's written it in the last year or two. They'll tell you, what the question paper is like, what being in the exam room is like. Yeah, so I would say those. And I think the single most useful thing in terms of writing the exam and just generally also for the first couple of years in law school is be very, very comfortable with reading English. If English is not your first language, then because a lot of the exam is just reading. A lot of law school is just reading. So I would say definitely sort of be very, very comfortable and be reasonably quick at reading English. That's probably going to help you the most in the exam. Yeah.
I think that will really help a lot of young kids who are there with us today in terms of, language is an important part of this, and English being a common language that is followed today. I think that is something which will really help them. Thanks so much, Vasu.
Great. So now what we will do is we will take up questions that our audience has been posting on the chat box. Students and parents who are there in the audience, you can continue to ask your queries on the chat box. If it is to a specific panelist, then please mention whom you want it to be addressed to, and then we can take it on. So I think one of the questions that has come up is, what is the scope of, or what is the scope for the taxation field? I think Roy, I think you can give a shot at it if it is possible.
Sure.
Yeah.
So as far as tax law goes, there's tax litigation. There, in a corporate law firm setup, you will have tax litigators as well as lawyers who are essentially specializing in certain types of taxes. For example, there'll be lawyers who specialize in indirect taxes. There'll be lawyers that specialize in direct taxes. And there will be, some team members or some senior members who actually go to court and litigate tax matters. But the other aspect of a tax practice is also tax structuring, right? So, which is essentially, and see, I think one thing that everybody needs to sort of keep in mind is that tax is very integral to what, say, for example, I do, right? In deal structuring, M&A structuring, any acquisition that you read in the Economic Times or which come in the papers, the fundamental structure, I mean, unless tax has vetted it, that is the tax teams have vetted it, approved it, it doesn't really come to us, right? I mean, at the end of the day, essentially, people get into business to make money. So, that's the primary objective. So these structures need to be very tax efficient. So yeah, tax is a very interesting practice area. It's just that, it's a very niche area, and there are various different types of taxes. So and one thing is that you can apart from tax litigation or being part of a tax team, you could also essentially find plenty of opportunities in, say, for example, audit firms, like the Big Fours, if tax is something that interests you.
Thanks. There's another question. I think, Rita, this you will be able to handle. So this, the student says, I'm a BCom student, yet our exams, I mean, their exams have been postponed and pending, but he has decided to give MHCET this year. So is there any guidance for him in terms of preparation? I mean, would you want to handle it now? Or?
So in terms of, your preparation for MSCT, if your exams have been postponed, even the law entrance exams have also been postponed to some extent. Like CLAT is happening on 22nd of August. And similarly, all the law exams except for LSAT, CET will also be postponed for some time. But at the same time, every institution is aware that the graduation exams have been postponed. So nobody will be asking you for your completion certificates till the time these exams are given. So you can do both the things simultaneously. You can prepare for your CET at the same time when your exam, the third year final exams will happen, and your college or university is giving you a degree certificate. That's the time you can go back and join your law school. So it's an overlap which may happen for some time, but no university right now is asking for a submission of your completion certificate. It's only once you get into a law college, and by this time your graduation exams will be over, then is the time that you can submit your university certificate or the degree to them. So it's perfectly fine to do the two things simultaneously. Prepare for your CET at the same time whenever your third year exams happen, and once you have your results in hand, you can submit it to your university.
Fine. The next question is, how does one go about pursuing law after a BA or a BCom degree, especially if he wants to follow the IPR route? Gitika, do you want to give a shot at it?
Yes. Bala, if any of these students are actually looking to pursue career in IPR, I would say start working with IPR law firms. You have to understand the culture. You have to understand how IPR works. You also have to figure out whether you want to specialize into any of the given subjects or you want to practice into IPR in general as a whole. So start working with a lot of IPR firms. See how, work with litigation firms, work with non-litigation firms, understand what suits you best. There are some firms that also do lit and non-lit together. So maybe try your hand at it, work for at least 3 months, 6 months, and understand the functionality. Thereafter, make a call whether you want to pursue an IPR or any other subject.
So moving on to the next question, which is there in the chat box. It says, what are the opportunities one can get in international law firms? And is learning a foreign language beneficial? Roy, do you want to give a shot at it?
Yeah, sure. So, at least from my experience, I think if you're in, the top 10, 20 ranked law schools, I believe that, there are summer internships that the international law firms offer. And I think a lot of students I think pretty much all of the national law schools that are there as part of CLAT, that's definitely what you should be aiming for if you're looking at, say, essentially moving abroad and joining one of the international law firms, because I mean, if they are going to take students from India, they would take them only after having the opportunity of essentially seeing how they work, right? So internships again plays a very important role. As far as learning a foreign language goes, very helpful. In fact, law firms in India are essentially creating country specific desks. For example, many of the top tier law firms have a Japanese desk, uh, a Chinese desk, but don't know what's going to happen to that. But then a German desk, for example. So yeah, I mean, essentially knowing a foreign language is will definitely be helpful at some point in time for sure.
Thanks, Roy. Okay, so dear students and parents, we are approaching our closure time. In fact, we didn't quite realize how an hour and a half has simply gone by. So I would now request Rita Balachandran to please share her closing remarks with us.
I think it was very, very useful interacting with the panel, which has a very varied experience, I would say. Experience both in terms of, where you are working or what you're pursuing, and also in terms of your age and the kind of people that you're working with. So I think overall, it has been a great learning for, I'm sure, for everybody who has been today with us as students and parents. We as a career counseling firm has always believed that the more exposure you give to students at this stage, every exposure counts. Whether it's an exposure of working with an organization or whether it's an exposure while you are even of exposure which happens at the younger stages, you get to know more about it. And today, it's Roy said, or Vasu, or I think everybody said that don't shy away, reach out to people. So if you want to even reach out to these panelists after the session, I think I'm sure each one of you paying them. And at the same time, if you want any kind of career counseling related queries, do reach out to us. If you want to have one session with us in terms of knowing more about how to find your career path, please come back. And for younger students and for working professionals, equally, we do a complete career counseling right from giving them, or to know their own aptitude, and then take a decision which is a more explored and thought through decision, which is, I think, which is very important at every stage of our life. So thanks to, I think, all my panelists today about what you have shared with our students today and the parents who are here. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Rita. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you
for having us.
Of this third episode of Meet the Masters. For those of you all who still have queries and more, require more guidance, feel free to get in touch with Rita. Her contact details is mentioned on the screen. Once again, a heartfelt thanks to our 4 panelists, Gitika, Shikha, Wiseroy, and Vasudev, for participating in this event and sharing your valuable experience and knowledge with our students and parents. Once again, a very sincere thanks to each one of you all. Students, I sincerely hope this session helps you all to firm up your career goals and move ahead in life well and well. Thank you so much and have a great weekend ahead. Thank you so much, each one of you.